So, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Sepertama-tama kalinya saya mengucapkan selamat datang ke program Bicara Kepimpinan Universiti Malaysia Pahang Al-Sultan Abdullah Siri 1 bagi tahun 2024. Bagi memberkati program kita pada pagi ini, marilah kita sama-sama membaca umul kitab Al-Fatihah. Okey, yang saya hormati lagi kagumi penyampai kita pada pagi ini iaitu Profesor T.S. Dr. Kamal Zuhairi bin Zamli, Felo Penyelidik Utama Pusat Kecerdasan Buatan dan Sains Data UMPSA, Barisan Kolam Bakar UMPSA, seterusnya tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang saya kasihi sekalian. So, Alhamdulillah, syukur kehadirat ilahi dengan limpah kurnianya kita dapat berkumpul bersama-sama bagi menjayakan program Bicara Kepimpinan UMPSA Siri 1 bagi tahun 2024 pada hari ini. So, untuk makluman semua, program Bicara Kepimpinan UMPSA ini merupakan salah satu program di bawah kerangka program Kepimpinan UMPSA yang akan menampilkan barisan penceramah yang berwibawa terdiri daripada Kolam Bakar UMPSA sendiri, lembaga pengarah universiti atau pengurusan utama universiti atau mereka yang berkepakaran dalam pelbagai bidang seperti akademik, pendidikan, korporat dan kepimpinan sama ada jemputan luar ataupun staf UMPSA. Melalui platform ini, mereka akan berkongsi pengalaman, pengetahuan dan pandangan tentang aspek-aspek penting kepimpinan, merangkumi pelbagai bidang, inovasi serta cabaran semasa dalam membina organisasi yang berjaya. Sebelum bermulanya sesi bicara kita pada pagi ini, izinkan saya untuk membacakan sedikit biodata penyampai kita yang saya rasa tidak asing lagi, yang agak dikenali oleh semua warga UMPSA pada hari ini. So, untuk makluman, Profesor T.S. Dr. Kamal Zuhairi bin Zamli merupakan lulusan daripada University of Newcastle upon Tyne, UK pada tahun 2003 dalam bidang kejuruteraan perisian. So, beliau adalah profesor di Fakulti Komputeran UMPSA yang juga merupakan mantan Timbalan Naib Chancellor Pendidikan dan Inovasi UMPSA. Pada ketika ini, beliau dilantik sebagai Fellow Penyelidik Utama di Pusat Kecerdasan Buatan dan Sains Data UMPSA. So, bidang penyelidikan utama beliau adalah berkaitan dengan meta and hyperheuristic, search-based software engineering and multifactorial or multitask optimization. So, tanpa melengahkan masa, saya dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan Profesor T.S. Dr. Kamal Zuhairi bin Zamli untuk menyampaikan perkongsian beliau yang bertajuk A Pragmatic Guide for Early and Mid-Career Researchers. Dipersilakan, Prof.
Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank Jabatan Pendaftar Rekod for organizing this talk. For me to be able to share a topic on a pragmatic guide for early and mid-career researchers. So basically what I'm going to be talking today is I'm going to highlight what I have done that bring me today, okay, to what I am today. So maybe what I'm talking about may be useful for you or may not be useful for you. If it is useful, please take it. If not useful, you can throw it away. Okay, so again, my name is Kamal. So I'm actually in the Faculty of Computing. So basically, okay. So basically, I hope your time today for 2 hours is not wasted. So I will try not to mislead you. You know, for example, I don't want you to get wrong impression of the thing that I'm going to talk about. For example, if you limit x rate 1 over x minus 8 equal to infinity, infinity is not equal to 8. They are same symbol, but they're not the same. So I hope that you will not get misled by me, hopefully. Okay. So many of the examples come from my own experience and they are probably limited. So I'm telling you what I have, maybe the knowledge I have may be small, maybe limited. So because it's based on my own experience. So maybe my talk is going to be biased with my research track because my track is on research. The presentation may be skewed toward my background in optimization, research-based software engineering, software testing, although I will try to relate to other research as well. Many of the slide and pictures taken from internet. I'm not claiming the picture and slide copyright, so I've downloaded some of the pictures to enhance my PowerPoint. I'm not intentionally to do self-appraisal, okay? Just to highlight my point and walk the talk, that's all. You see, I'll talk about something, not intentionally to do self-appraisal, but just to highlight my point and walk the talk, that's all. Okay, so my two biggest challenges are to stimulate your interest, that you stay awake for 2 hours, to ensure that your time is not wasted and you learn something from the talk. So that's my hope for today. Okay, so this is sharing of experience, not a lecture. So not also self-appraisal. I'm sorry if I do so, because I want to highlight the point. Okay, so really I don't want you to repeat after me. You know what we do is really important, and you just follow what I said. Okay, so I really don't want you to also to prove that 0 over 0 equal to 2 also. So I'm also not. There's a famous experiment called the 5 monkey experiment, where you have 5 monkeys and you put banana on top of the ladder. So when a monkey is trying to get the banana, the guy who conducted the experiment put a water on the head of the monkey. So the monkey then going back down again. So what happened is the lesson learned, if you put another monkey who are not in the experiment, the 6th monkey, and when he tried to push up, the other monkey tried to pull him down, telling him that there's something, there's something, the water is going to fall on them. So sebenarnya what I'm going to be talking is limited and based on my own experience. So they're biased for research track, and also many of the slides that I took are from the internet to enhance my PowerPoint. So I'm not intentionally to do self-appraisal, but just to highlight the point and walk the talk. So it looked like self-appraisal, but I didn't mean to do so. So I'm sorry to do that. So really, I'm trying to stimulate your interest so that your time is not wasted and you learn something from the talk. So next slide. So not self-appraisal, I'm sorry to do so. Okay, so I don't want to prove 0 over 0 equal to 2. So next slide. So there's a famous experiment called the 5 monkey experiment, okay? So basically you have 5 monkeys and you put a banana on top of the ladder. So each time the monkey is going to go up, you pour, the guy who do the experiment, pour water on the head of the monkey, so the monkey would fall down. So what happened with this experiment is when you do, it's actually called cultural conditioning. So because culturally you don't do that, so you don't allow other people to do the same. So for example, you put another monkey, he's trying to go up, the other monkey will stop them and telling them, hey, you cannot go up because the water will be put on your head. So this kind of thing. So because that's the way it's always been done, and you always try to maintain what's being done currently. So you are not allowed. So I hope that what I do today is not going to be something that you cannot challenge. You can do something else also. So it's not cast in stone. Okay. So next slide, please. Okay. So the point is where we are now. So you ask a question, and most of us have PhDs. Okay. So next slide. So what does a PhD mean? PhD is academic exercise that demonstrates the ability of a person to do independent research of particular research subject on area of research. Okay, so really it's showing the ability of a person to do independent research. Okay, so to earn a PhD in one master specific subject completely and extend the body of knowledge about that subject. So really, a PhD is really like a license only for you to be a researcher. Okay, so next slide. So I'm going to go through 9 guides that I think is useful for early and mid-career researchers that have worked for me. Okay, I'm going to share 9. I'm going to elaborate on these 9 tips or guides for early and mid-career researchers. Okay, what I've done to go thus far. Okay, what I've done. So maybe I'm going to share with you. These are the kind of things that I did for the past 20 years being a lecturer in the university. Okay, so next slide. So first of all, you have to know, where are you now? Where are we now? So for example, you look at yourself now, self-reflect, or in Malaysia, muhasabah diri. Look at yourself, where are you now? Okay, and then you ought to do SWOT analysis. What is your strength? Ask yourself and peer, and how you to do head start. Okay, now you now you know your strength, you know your weaknesses. So you look at what do you have now. Okay, now if you want to do, you have to embark into an area where you want to be. You have to know where you are now, where you want to be, how for you to get there. Okay, now if you choose something that you're not strong enough, for example, you're doing some area where you are starting from, everyone is starting from the 0 mark, but you start from minus 100-meter mark. That meaning you're going to be slow. So you have to study what is your strength, so that you can start from 0 mark. In other words, for you to start, planning for your research, you have to know where you are and where you want to be. In other words, you set a target and you see how are you going to be there. Okay. So next slide. So you have to be visioning yourself with clear aim. In the next 1 year, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, what are you going to be? Are you going to be a cat? Are you going to be a tiger, or other? Are you going to be fat? Are you going to be slim? Okay. So you need to have a clear aim. What you're going to do. You have to plan. Okay. So next slide. So you need to know where do you want to be, and where are you now? How will you get there? How you know when you get there? Okay. So you really have to plan. Okay. How many of us do this for their career? Okay. They just do by chance. They don't plan, but it happens by chance. So it's not good for you. It's not good for your career. You should look at what is your strength, where are you now. For example, for myself, I'm not angry, but I can do a lot of programming well. Okay, I know a lot of programming well. That's why I know I can do algorithms. I can know, because I know that's my strength. Some people have different strength. Okay, so they can start a research where they can exploit their strength. Okay, so then where you want to be, in the 5 years, what do you want to be? 5 years, I want to be associate professor. So look at the criteria for associate professor. What are the target you need to be? So then where the metric to be associate professor, how many journals you need. So you plan, for every year you plan to publish journal. In the next 5 years, you are eligible to apply for associate professor, for example. Okay, and then you really have to have a plan. Okay, so next slide. So it could be 5 to 10 years. You want to know, you have to know the criteria for promotion. Now, if you're mid-career or early career researchers, you have to know what are the criteria to apply for associate professor, professor. And then you have to know the playing field. Okay, meaning later I'll talk about what are the things you need to know. So what you need to do is know the criteria for promotion, and then you target the criteria every year. Let's say you want in 5 years. In 5 years, the criteria are as follows. Okay, and then for the first year, you try to fulfill maybe 1/5 of the criteria, 2/5, 3/5, and then finally 5 years you complete all the criteria. If you don't plan, you don't plan, then it happens by luck. Okay, you don't want to happen you want to by design, so you can very objective in your plan. Okay, so next slide. So some academic ranks are solely based on academic excellence, and they are permanent. Okay, and administrative title based on post and is rotational basis. Okay, for example, I became TNCPI for 5 years. Okay, after 5 years, then I stopped being TNCPI. So those are typically you target for academic ranks. You don't target for administrative title, because their title are rotational in basis. Okay, so try to target academic ranks solely based on academic excellence, and these are typically permanent. Okay, rather than rotational. Okay. Next slide. So one of the most important thing in being an academician is to profess. Okay, you need to associate your name with a particular area of research. Okay, typically in a professorial interview, the question they might ask is, what area do you profess in? So you should be able to answer those. Okay, so you should start now. If you're early or mid-career researcher, try to think of what are the areas that I'm professed in. Okay, and try to establish that the area, for example, to your publication, to your grant, to your keynotes, and to your workshop, and so on and so forth. Okay, there's always a danger of being jack of all trades, meaning you don't expert, but you just being a passenger to another person. Okay, and I see a lot of people nowadays claim their expertise in AI because AI is the current hype. The danger is sometimes some of us do not have substance to back them up. They say I'm AI, but they don't have any material to show that they're doing AI, for example. Okay, it's typical now because a lot of AI is something hype now. The people are trying to say that I'm doing AI, everyone is doing AI. Okay, because to get into the current hype. So there's a danger. You need to prove that you profess in the area. We can see from your publication, from grants, from keynotes, from workshops, and so on and so forth. Okay, so being professed is another thing that very important if you want to go up the ladder to academic rank. Okay, because in the end, people will associate with you with some subject. Okay, so you profess in the area of this. So then you can say that I'm actually I'm doing research. I profess in the area, so you become professor. Okay, next slide. Okay, profess, for example, can be seen into, for example, workshop that you did. People ask you to do workshop. So you do workshop in many areas. So you can, one of the things you can show that you profess in certain area. That you have to profess. Then you can tell people that I'm professed, for example, in multifactorial optimization, for example. Then you show them these are the proof that I've already professed in the area. So next slide. So number 4 is actually publish or perish. Okay. So one of the things academicians need to publish. Okay, because then they have to do teaching and they have to publish, doing research and publishing. Okay, teaching, everyone is doing teaching. So publishing is another area where early career researcher or mid-career researcher need to do a lot. Okay, you need to publish a lot. Okay, because when you're going to get a professor, whatever, they also look at your publication. Okay, so next slide. So it's not easy to do research. Okay, so I always say research is like marriage. Okay, so you must love the area that you're working in. Okay, you cannot otherwise you have no motivation to do research in that area. So side effect of poor love, okay, is that you're not performing grant, lack of publication, money not spent. Okay, so you have to be passionate about research. Okay, meaning you do well in your work. So typically, like I said, marriage is like research is like marriage. Okay. Okay, next slide. So publish or perish. Okay. So there's always an issue of quality and quantity. This is also a problem with new researcher. Okay. So as much as possible, target quality over quantity. Must at least try to balance between the two, and also try to achieve KPI. Okay. So some achievement you can do is, for example, you can target top 2% scientists, high citation corpus, and Google Scholar, for example. Okay. So if you look at myself, okay, I always target high. Okay. If you look at the last 8 years citation my Google Scholar, 66% are in Q1. Okay. In the most cited papers I have for the last 8 years, 66% is Q1. In other words, I target quality than quantity. So you try to get Q1 first, and then later you target other Qs. Okay, so you always have to do quality first. You target quantity to get the KPI. For example, you need to publish 4 articles. You publish 4 articles, and the rest you try to publish into high high journal so that you can be in the top 2% scientists or get high citation. Okay, so this is the thing that I always practice. Okay, so when I was for your information, I was in USM for 10 years. Okay, in USM they always ask you to publish in very high impact factor journal. So we always have this idea of quality versus quantity. You target quality and you target you also do quantity. You try to balance between the two. For example, if you fulfill the quality of the KPI, then you need to target quality. Okay, so if you want to be successful, I think you should target quality over quantity. Okay, so next slide. So a lot of us do not do not have the courage to submit into very high impact factor journal. So this should stop. Okay, try your best and submit to ISIQ1. I have some experience submitting 4 years in a journal. Okay, 4 years. Okay, and after 4 years the journal get rejected. Okay, after 4 years I get when I first submit to the journal, it was major correction, so I did the correction. So it was major correction again. I did the correction, major correction again, and then after 2 years, okay, the journal got rejected. Okay, so you can see that you have to try, but a lot of us, are afraid to try. Okay, there's not, you have nothing to lose, everything to gain. Okay, so I have many experience get rejected also myself. Okay, this year I submitted 6 journal, 4 got rejected. Okay, so but I tried my best. Okay, so I think if I submit into a non-ISI journal, probably would be accepted, but I target for high journal, it get rejected. So you have to try yourself. If not, then you don't learn. Okay, so next slide. So there's also number 5, ethical issue in publishing. Okay, now these are a lot of problem, typically falsification of results. Okay, meaning you made up the results. Okay, so it could be also publication misconduct. Okay, where you plagiarize. Okay, you copy or you do duplicate submission, a lack of acknowledgement of prior research and researcher, inappropriate identification of all co-authors, and conflict of interest. So this is typically ethical issue in publication. Okay, next slide. So the most common among us, okay, it happens is among PhD students. So PhD students, they want to submit in very high impact factor journal, but they don't have time to wait. So what they do is they do multiple submission. Okay, multiple submissions save you time, but waste editors and reviewer time. Okay, so when you do multiple submission, this is dangerous. Okay, do not send your manuscript until the second journal until you receive the final edition of the first journal. Okay, so it typically happen with PhD students. They sometimes they submit a journal without telling you. So submit multiple journals. So which one is accepting their paper first, and they will be happy. But this is actually multiple submission is actually an ethical problem. So as a supervisor, you need to check. Tell the student anything that he or she want to submit has to go through you. Otherwise, they will do many magic. They will submit to many journal the same paper. Okay, and if you get caught, there is a big problem. Okay, that you might be blacklisted for that particular journal. Okay, it so happened when I was Deputy Vice Chancellor, there is a comment from one journal to me of a person who submitted 2 journals at the same time. Okay, simultaneously. Okay, so I got a complaint from so we give advice to the researcher, and we ask them to pull off one of the submission. So it's a good thing that the editor was not adamant. So he said, okay, we accept that. So there's really a bad name for the university. Okay, so one another thing is that plagiarism, copying from other people's work. Plagiarism may result in academic charges, but recently caused paper to be rejected. Okay, so this is a common issue among PhD students. I have many typically students where they want to graduate early, they want to get publication fast, they will do this multiple submission. Okay, plagiarism you can detect with turn it in, but multiple submission you cannot unless the editor of the journal realize when they assign reviewer that the reviewer is telling them that, hey, you have the same paper submitted to other journal also. This is really a very bad thing to do. Okay, so next slide. So when you committed plagiarism, it won't be removed from Science Direct. If your paper has been published and you get caught for plagiarism, your paper is not going to be deleted from the Science Direct. You see your paper there, but you see a red mark paper, retracted, for example, on top of your paper. So everybody download will see the reason for retraction. So really, you are cursed forever. People know that you have bypassed the ethics, and then you can see your paper retracted. Okay, and the record is permanent. You can see retracted of the paper for the whole of your career. It's still being there. It's not being deleted, so it's still there, and the paper is stamped retracted. Okay, so next slide. So another thing with a guide for early career researcher is that exploit technologies. Okay, a lot of people, a lot of my students also, they're still using manual citation. Okay, I told them use EndNote or use Mendeley, whatever, but some of them still use manual. Okay, meaning they still and then when you use manual, when you write paper, you know some citation are missing, some reference are missing. So this is also another area that if you want to do smooth your process of writing, you need to exploit technology. Okay, now people talking about generative AI tools. You can also do ChatGPT, Copilot, and Gemini, whatever. So you should learn how to use those. Okay, and you should use Turnitin to check for plagiarism. Okay, and these are the kind of tools that you should use. Okay, to help facilitate your writing and your research. Okay. And don't do manual. Okay, so next slide. So another thing is you have to learn the playing field. Most importantly, research gap. Okay, I know a lot of you having PhD, so basically typically you have a general problem. Okay, for example, okay, you are trying to cross between two hills. Okay, the general problem. Okay, now typically you should the gap is, that's a general problem, and there are solution people propose. Maybe a bridge A, bridge B, bridge C, bridge D, different bridges. Okay, so your problem statement should be what is the limitation of current solution, current bridge, not the general problem. The general problem, we know there's a general problem. You need to build a bridge. But how to build a bridge, you know there are many different types of bridge. So you need to review different types of bridges and propose a new model, and to justify, to evaluate, and to do benchmarking for your contribution is the new bridge. Okay, you cannot say I just building bridge. So you have to know how people did the bridge before. Okay, for you to be able to build your own bridge. Okay, and the bridge could be a combination from different bridges, features from different bridges. Okay, so you have to know the research gap. You know, research gap is, for example, in this problem, you want to cross between two edges. Okay, so you need to build a bridge, but there are already people who are building the bridge. So you have to know how they build the bridge, what are the limitations of other bridges, rendering the need of your bridge. Okay, so you should be able to relate to this idea. Okay, you have to learn the playing field. Okay, so next slide. Okay, the gap is knowledge. Okay, there's always a danger of not having a gap. Okay, typically people say that nobody has done it before. The first word of its kind. So this is the danger. For example, if you do Jalan Itik from UMP Gambang to UMP Pekan, nobody has done it before. So first word of its kind. But is that a good gap? Is that a good thing to do? So sometimes the claim that people say nobody has done it before can be backfire, okay? Because the thing is not useful. That's why nobody has done it before. It's so useless that nobody think of it as being a useful thing to do. So you have to be careful on that and gap in knowledge, okay? So next slide. So I want to share with you. This is a slide that I got from a professor in USM. Okay, in engineering campus when I first joined USM in 2000, in the year 2000. Okay, so he gave me this slide. So he said, whatever you want to know, research contribution, these are the list. So I still keep using it until today. Okay, that professor has given me this. So he said that the research contribution can be one of these 9 areas. Okay, so then he said, wherever you do any of your work, try to fit into this research contribution, and you can get you can highlight your contribution based on this. Okay, and I was it was given to me in one of the talk by one of the professor in USM. So I still remember him. So he gave me this, so I keep using his slide until today. Okay, so next slide. So so I'm trying I'm trying to put also a few experience that I had. Okay, so in writing a paper, okay, in good journal, so I always practice to do this. Okay, before in my introduction, before I start summarizing my chapters or my section, I will always say my contribution can be summarized as follows. Okay, so every time I write, I will always say the problem statement, the gap, and then I say my contribution. Okay, for example, specifically our contribution is summarized as follows. Okay, by doing this, it works. Okay, a lot of my paper have been accepted in this style of writing. Okay, so every time I always in my introduction, I would say my contribution is, so that the reviewer will not have their head banging to know what is my contribution. I already state them what are my contributions. So a novel, for example, heuristic, for example, so I'm giving them my contribution. Okay, so next slide. So in all my papers, you see a lot of my papers, I will always give the gap and I give my contribution. In my introduction, before I summarize the section, section 2 do this, section 3 do this, I will always tell them the contribution are summarized as follows. So I would tell them what my contribution is. So for some reason, it worked for me. It worked for me for the past few years. I did. It worked well for me by doing this. Okay, so next slide. So there's also another paper that I did, okay, which I did the same. The contribution of the paper can be summarized as follows. I always say the gap and then say my contribution, okay. So it's always worked like this. So if you see my paper, you see this kind of style, because I know this style works. So that's why I use this style. So next slide. You can see also the same, okay. This is also another paper that I wrote, which I tell them my contribution, okay. So given such a prospect, the paper propose our contribution can be summarized as follows. So whenever you have to tell them the contribution, so that the reviewer will not have a headache to think of what is your contribution. You tell them what is your contribution. So they just have to verify your contribution. Okay. So next slide. And you do literature review. I'm not that this talk is not about writing, but I will tell you some of the things that I have learned. Okay, that allow me to publish in very good journal. Okay, so maybe to know detail we have to have another session, but this is very high level experience that I had. Okay, so when you review related work, you have to give opinion on the strength and limitation is rendering the need of your approach. You have to tell them what is the strength and limitation of existing approach that renders the need of your approach. Okay, for example, we say addressing the limitation of SA improved variant as developed. So you tell them what are GA and SU has been criticized their complex algorithm structure, essentially requiring large computational resources. So you tell them what are the interpretation of their work, the limitation and strength of their work. Okay, so next slide. Similarly, give opinion and strength to other work. So you can see the thing, the highlight in blue, in blue boxes. These are the comment about other work. Okay, and then you tell based on that comment. Later you say my contribution is I address the comment in blue, for example. Okay, so next. Similarly here, I always give the work and also give opinion rather than do a very quick macam bulletin utama punya side, you know, A work this, B do this, C do this, E do this. There's no, you need to have A do this. So what are the advantages of A? What are the limitations of A? What are the limitations of B, C, and D? So you to put your work into perspective. You cannot say A do that, A, B do this, C do this. So most like a review without any comments, okay? So next slide. So dealing with reviewer, reviewer don't care. When you submit, it doesn't care, okay? Either you want to get PhD degree, you get promoted, reviewer don't care, okay? So next slide. So part of this section is talk about learning about playing field, okay? So sometimes a lot of people, they don't know how to deal with reviewer, okay? Typically, if I get the first time, if I get the paper is accepted first time and with a reviewer comment, typically I'm successful. Typically, I will get the thing published, okay? Because you have to learn the trick on how to deal with reviewer, okay? First thing, you try to be polite, okay? For any reviewer, they have an ego, so you have to be polite rather than say you are wrong, whatever. You just say to thank you for giving us the comments, and then be polite. Try to address all the comments. Sometimes the comments are irrelevant, okay? But you really need to appreciate the reviewer. Maybe the worst case you do is put what the reviewer suggests in the future work, okay? Don't rebut them, all of them, okay? If you do rebuttal, the danger of you being rejected. So try to appreciate the reviewer's comment by, for example, put them into, if you don't want to do it, put them into future work or put it somewhere else that you can, at least you did something for the reviewer's comment, okay? So you have to agree when have married, otherwise you may need to rebut sometimes, okay? So next slide. You need to rebuttal. Rebuttal, you have to be careful when you do rebuttal, okay? So next slide. So we did a rebuttal, okay? Here. For example, we have considered the comment as part of scope for future work as follows. So we did rebuttal, but we incorporate that into a future work. So we don't simply discard the comment from reviewer, okay? So, and then we appreciate the suggestion, okay? Trying to be polite, okay? So when you do, a lot of people, when they respond to review, they say the review comment, they say done. So those kind of response are not appropriate. You need to respond with word. We thank the reviewer for the comments. As a person, we like to consider high flight framework. Nevertheless, consider high flight would means a complete revamp of our paper. Furthermore, our current concern is on the transition. For this reason, we consider the comment as part of future work. See, I'm trying to not to do what he's trying to propose. So I give reason, but I still appreciate his comment. I put this in the future work, okay? And I also say we appreciate the suggestion. So you're trying to be nice with the reviewer, okay? You cannot simply saying to reviewer, you don't understand the work we are doing. So so what? So be it. Okay, I don't want to do what you proposed to me. So then that would invite rejection of the paper, okay? So next slide. So if you want to, I can have another session just on addressing the review's comment, okay? If you want to, but today I'm trying to give just a gist of highlight, okay? So we also have my experience. I have the hard rebuttal for a hard reviewer, okay? So the reviewer asks us to do an experiment. We say that the experiment we don't need, okay? So this we addressed a few times, but we were still having a problem with our rebuttal, okay? So what we did is next slide. We don't incorporate the what the reviewer asks us in this paper. We wrote another paper as a technical report, and we put in archive.com, okay, where we did experiment what they asked us to do, but we put there in archive because we cannot incorporate in our paper because the paper is talking about something else, but they were asking about something else. So we did, but we put this in archive somewhere else. Okay, we did another problem. We put it in archive. Okay, so next slide. So this is some of. So we put this in other archive. Available from archive. So we did an experiment where the reviewer asked us to do, but we cannot incorporate that in our technical paper, so we incorporate as technical report in archive. Okay, we did implementation. So when you put stuff in archive, you don't have to be write much. You need just to run the experiment and show the result of the experiment. So you don't have to do much of the literature review, whatever. Just highlight the new experiment you did and put in archive, so the reviewer can look into archive the experiment you have done and the result from that. So, but you don't incorporate them into the main paper because the paper is talking about something else and the reviewer asking about something else. So, but still, again, we follow what the reviewer says, we rebut, but then we don't simply rebut. We put our effort to put another, so that to say that we also address the reviewer's comment, put alternative to what the reviewer is asking us. Okay, next slide. So these are some of the comments. Okay, we apologize for rushing our correction. So we apologize. Sometimes we tend to be polite. The reviewer asks us to remove a comment, so we remove some comment, and we add some reference. We remove some comment, some reference. Okay, and then this one type, the reviewer comment says, this is the last revision. If I don't make this one perfect, this last revision, he will reject my paper. So I'm trying to be polite. You see, we apologize for rushing our correction. We have improved the section and add 2 more reference to justify our choice. In the show, we remove 2 existing reference so as to maintain the list as 50. They want 50 reference. So rather than done, I take the paragraph and put in the rebuttal comment, review's comment. Okay. So next slide. So these are some of the example, some of the paper that we have done, some experience we did. Okay. This first paper, we get R4, only 2 reviewers. R2, this is one of the fastest paper we got for 3 months. This one, I think the first one, 8 months. And then some of paper also 8 months, 3 months, and 3 months. Okay, so a lot of when you write paper in Q1 journal, it takes typically from 3 to 1 year. Okay, someone. It takes 3 to 1 year for you to publish. That's why it's worth publishing in ISI paper. Okay, Scopus sometimes you can get in 1 or 2 months, but ISI you need 8 to 12 months, okay, to publish. So that's why it's harder to publish in ISI paper. So next slide. So number 8, okay, you need to always update your knowledge in your field. Okay, so whatever you do, okay, you need to read recent review papers. Okay, so there's always danger for you. For example, in my PhD, I did process modeling language. Okay, I did. So I've now moved on. Okay, I'm not doing those. Okay, I'm now moving something else. So we have to be dynamic. Okay, we have to move for research. You cannot be still talking about the thing you did for last 10 or 20 years. Okay, still you cannot move on to new update knowledge. Okay, so you have to learn. Okay, so you have to read recent review papers, and you have to serve as a reviewer in a reputable journal. You have to be volunteer to review papers. Okay. Now, when you review papers, you have potentially you are able to read new material, new stuff. Okay, new area where people are embarking on, so you can learn from them. Okay. So what happened to me is I served in review in one of IEEE transaction paper. Okay, they were talking about multifactorial optimization. So I learned from that paper. Then now I'm doing multifactorial optimization. So in other words, that you learn by doing review, and you learn by reading recent review papers. Review papers you read, and also I always do you exploit the easy proxy, UMP easy proxy, every 3 months or so, I search for new papers in my area. I search typically multifactorial optimization, search-based software engineering. So I will know new papers that are coming out, and I download it and read it. Okay. And also, you should also become thesis examiner. If people offer you to become thesis examiner, you volunteer, because you can learn something new from other people. Okay. By reading their work, you learn something new. So there's always a danger for you cannot move on from your current research area. Maybe you still doing a thing that people have done 10 years ago, you still been doing. Okay, someone is writing something. Okay, so there's a danger you cannot move on from research 10 years or 10 years ago, and you cannot align with the current research. Okay, so okay, next slide. So 9 is the last in my list. Okay, so you have to secure a research grant. Okay, now you are in UMP, you are in luck. Okay, UMP, I think in all other universities in Malaysia, UMP give a lot of allocation for internal research grant. Okay, and the internal research grant cover from TRL 1 until TRL 9. Okay, and you can there's no reason for anyone in UMP that cannot get a grant. Okay, because UMP has many grants. Okay, and this grant can be a stepping stone for other national grant or international grants. Okay, this is one of the things that I like about UMP. And UMP is where the LPU and the VC are supporting research very well. Okay, they give a lot of internal money to support research. Okay, and that results into good performance in terms of research. Okay, yesterday the top 2% scientists was published, and 22 out of UMP researchers are listed in top 2% scientists. Okay, as compared to I think 3 in UNIMAP or 2 in UTHM or 2 in UTEM or whatever. Okay, so very far. We are 22 listed researchers listed in 2% scientists. Okay, so because of the UMP has many grants that we can work together. Okay, I think there's no reason for anybody in UMP does not have grants. Okay, because with grants you can do a good publication. And secondly, you can hire postgraduate students to work for you, and you can publish in conferences and do networking. So with grants, you can do many things. Okay, so I hope that everyone takes this opportunity to grab one or two of these grants. It depends if you are looking into concept or idea value analysis. You can apply grant fundamental UMP. You can also apply for publication grant, international publication with UTMP. You can collaborate with other researchers from outside UMP with certain impact factor, high H index, and you can get, I think, 40K for you to work, publish with well-known researcher overseas. Okay, so there are many. So one of the things, the strength of UMP is this support for research is very strong in UMP. Okay, so next slide. So I've already listed out 9 tips or guides for early mid-career researcher that have worked for me. So I think if you maybe you take some of this, you might be able to do well in your career. Okay, first you do self-reflection. You need to do SWOT analysis. You have to know where are you now. Okay, when you know where are you now, and then you have to know what is your strength. Okay, if for example your strength in the area that you're trying to work, maybe you are where people running 100 meter in 0 mark, you running in minus 100 mark, that's not your strength. Okay, you should pick an area where you have strength in and start doing work in that area. Okay, and then you have to clear vision with aim at hand. Okay, in 5 years I want to be professor. Okay, professor, associate professor. So you have to know how to get there. You have to how to get there. You have to plan how to get there, and you have to know all the metrics to know that you are there. You have to know the criteria for associate professor. Maybe require 20 journal or 10 journal. So you need 5 years. So every year you need to publish. If 10, maybe 2 or 4 articles per year. Okay, and then after 5 years you reach that number of journals that you need. And then you need to get students, so you need to plan for it. Okay, how to get students. Okay, you need to apply grants. Okay, without that, then you without plan, you're difficult for you to achieve your KPI. It's difficult for you to achieve to know that you have achieved the metric that you need to know, because you need to know first where you are now, where you are going, how to get there. How do you know you are there? Okay, so you know you are there, you need to know the metric that you have to fulfill. Okay, so you need to profess the subject of trades and networking with experts. So in real life, you need to know what is your area that you are professed in, because in the professional interview, they will ask you what area you profess in, and you have to explain to the interviewers, okay, in the board of directors, my expertise is this, and I prove my expertise because I got many keynotes, I got many papers published, I did some grants on this area. So you prove that you are professed, rather than you tumpang, okay, jack of all trades. You do everything in the area, okay. So you need to publish, and you have to balance between quantity and quality publication. Okay, you always have to target quality. Okay, if you bypass the quantity target KPI, you have to target for quality. Okay, so meaning you have to target a journal, for example, Q1 journal. You have to target. You have to target. Otherwise, you can get into the top 2% scientists. You can do well known by other people by publishing in good high impact journal. Okay, so fifthly, you need to do ethical practices. Okay, ethical practices meaning that you need to especially for PhD students, you have to be careful. PhD students sometimes they submit article without you in the know. Okay, so they're submitting into many journals at the same time. Okay, and that can be an ethical issue. You may be banned or blacklisted in that journal. Worst case, if you do plagiarism, your paper may be retracted. When your paper is retracted, you are cursed. Okay, your paper is still in that database forever. Okay, people know that you are the one who is having some ethical issue that makes your publication being retracted. Okay, so you need to exploit technology. If there are technology to help you do to help you to make your journey into research easier, you need to know how to learn EndNotes, you need to learn Mendeley, you need to follow generative. You don't have to follow exactly one or two. So you have to. A lot of people have preference. Okay, for myself, I use a lot of EndNotes. Okay, so maybe you use a lot of ChatGPT. So you don't have to know everything. No one is good enough. Okay, you have to know also how to draw a graph in Excel, draw a box plot in Excel. So these are the kind of things you need to know for you to help you in your research. Okay, and you have to learn the playing field. You learn playing field. I mean here is that you learn how to address the reviewer. You learn how to do writing, how to write a good journal. You have to learn. Okay, how to address reviewers' comment. How to know there is a contribution. What is a contribution? So you have to know this. If you need to know this, I can do a more detailed training on this. If you need help, you can invite me. I can talk about how to write into good journal and so on and so forth. Okay, and then you need to be hungry for learning new knowledge. Okay, to remain relevant. Okay, you need to become reviewers to reputable journals. You need to read many survey papers. Okay, and you need to review a thesis and then become examiners for thesis. That will help you to make sure that you are you remain relevant. Okay, you're not your knowledge is not being out of date. Okay, and finally, number 9, you should secure research grant. Okay, you should learn how to get research grant, because with research grant you can get students to work for you, postgraduate student. You can do networking. You can publish in very good journal. For example, if you take the UNP publication grants, you can collaborate with other good researchers from overseas, and then you can hire students and so on and so forth. So these are the 9 things that I think will help early and mid-career researchers to do well in their as academician, as researcher in the university. Okay, So with that, I think I would end my talk, and I would open for discussion. So thank you so much for your time. So I spent 1 hour. So I hope 1 hour is well spent for 12 of you in this webinar. So thank you so much. You are welcome to ask any question. If I can answer, I will answer them. Okay. So thank you so much.
So, Alhamdulillah, selesai sudah sesi perkongsian yang disampaikan oleh Profesor T.S. Dr. Kamal Zuhairi bin Zamli sebentar tadi. So, saya percaya perkongsian ini akan memberi manfaat yang besar lah dalam usaha untuk kita memperkukuhkan lagi kemahiran penyelidikan dan memberikan panduan praktikal dalam mengembangkan kejayaan akademik tuan-puan, khususnya dalam bidang penyelidikan. So now we move to Q&A session. So I open to the floor if there is any question. So I believe that there are a lot of questions spinning in your head. So this is your time. Ada soalan?
Assalamualaikum, Prof. Terima kasih atas perkongsian. Saya Fauzan. Saya nak tanya pasal apa yang counted and not being counted for 2% scientist tu. Maksudnya macam being a early career, I tend to publish in Scopus, and adalah few 1 or 2 paper yang I publish kat Q1. So tapi rasa macam bila Prof cakap quality quantity tu, kalau kita publish kat Q1 pun, apa yang dia counted untuk dia capture for merit 2% tu, adakah dia tengok kat keywords ke, atau sebenarnya apa yang dia algorithm dia macam mana dia counted for 2% tu lah sebenarnya? What is the game lah maksudnya?
Okay, I don't know how it's being done, but what my practice is you are consistent. I mean, you are consistent. I publish at least 4 or 5 Q1 per year consistently. So I do that as a practice I do. So I need to have 5. So I do part 5 every year. So when I'm doing it 5 every year, so it so happens that I'm listed in 5 years in a row for top 2% scientists. So I don't know the algorithm, but I think I target whenever possible. I target into very high Q. So if rejected, then I go lower and lower. So I never target. Sometimes people they target. Even initially I target Scopus je. So awal-awal dia target Scopus, dia tak buat pun. Tadi dia tak usaha lah. So I've done consistently. I would do 4 or 5 Q1 every year consistently. And then by doing that in the past 20 years, it just so happens I was there. So I'm not sure what the algorithm is, but I think if you do 5 every year, Q1, then you would be okay. So I've shown you a slide in Google Scholar where they said for the last 8 years, the highest my citation, there are 66% of my papers are in Q1. For the last 8 years that I cited. So because you're consistent, just being consistent, you know what algorithm is, just being consistent. I think if you look at the current list, the Arwah Promashita is still in the list of top 2% scientists. Arwah Promashita, although she passed away 5 years ago, because she had many good publications. So it's listed and people still cite them, still in top 2% scientists. Although she's passed away more than 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So I think just being consistent and try to get target as much as possible. Try to get Q1. If you get rejected, then you go lower. Okay. I always put it's for information. When I was not professor yet, I'm very crude to the student, PhD student. I told them without you have to publish at least 1 Q1, otherwise you cannot graduate with me. So we always I always do this to my PhD student. But I help them with everything. I help them with the coding with them, but my target, you have to get 4 Q1, one Q1 at least, okay, to graduate with me. So I was successful, many of them, and some of which are professor now. Some of my students are professor now, and they're working in some of which in Finland, in UK, in Sweden. Some of my PhD students, whom I taught them, I forced them Q1. So they're now better than me. They're working. They're professor already. So just be consistent. I think you did a good job. Try your best to as much as possible, try to target high. If you don't get, you go lower and lower. that would take time, but you learn. Okay, so.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Okay.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Okay, Assalamualaikum, Prof. Actually, I have a questions because my name is Ridwan. Actually, I think I'm quite new in the academic field. I think it's not very new, like it's about almost 3 years. But the thing is that I'm still having problems into looking to specialize my area because of I was in industry for many years, and my qualification actually is I have a multidisciplinary fields, which is there's a two. I think is quite different. But the thing is that when we want to become more specialized to a certain one area, so I think is I have some conflict idea. I have to look into what the publication that should I have. So that I'm writing in both areas, as many areas also, but I still at that point of time did not see any, area that I should specialize. Then it will give me more problem in terms of people. It's very difficult to look into, if they want to find examiner, so thesis examiner, so they will look into what is your specialized area, because I have two that I consider is the main area. So how do I solve this kind of situations, Prof?
Okay, thank you for the question. This is it's good that you realize the thing now, okay? Because later when you try to apply your associate professor and professor, they will ask you, what area you profess in. You have to be able to answer them. If you cannot answer them, typically they will not accept you as professor and so on and so forth. So it's good that you realize it now. So if I were you, you look at yourself, you have to do self-reflection. What is your strength? What is your really good strength that you have? Okay. Typically, everyone has their own strength. Okay. If you don't do an area where you are strength in, for example, if I do an area A, okay, but I'm trying to do an area B. When an area B, I have to start from minus 100 meter from the mark where other people start at 0 meter to run for 100 meters. So you really have to do reflect and see what are my strengths. Okay. So when you get your strength, then you can charter what is your plan. My strength is this, so I'm going to pursue this area. Because if you don't have the plan now, when you apply for associate professor, then we'll ask you, what's your area? And you say, I have not sure, then that would be bad impression for them, okay? So you really have to, for now, I think you really have to know what is it, because you came from industry, you must have something, industrial people must have some more, experience on real life problems. So I think you still have to sit down and think, what are my areas? List out what are my areas. Ask your friend, what do you think my area is? Okay, look at your publication and try to get focus on one area. Otherwise, you here okay, but later when you go up your career, you will have problem, because the one question that typically when you go for professor, they will ask you when you sit down, doctor, please sit down. Can you tell me what's your area you profess in? There's always a question that people will ask when you come for professor interview. And you have to be able to say, well, I profess in this area, and I show you in this area. You can look at my Google Scholar, my publication, my grant. All is focusing on this area. So you tell them, and they will be satisfied. Otherwise, you say my area can be here, can be there, and you cannot prove that the area is actually that you're focusing. Then that would be dangerous, or you're not favorable to your interview. So I think you really have to sit down and I have no solution for it, but you have to sit down and do reflection, really reflect, in industry what you did. And then from there
Prof, can we have two main areas of research or specialized? Because of because we are, as academic, we are encouraged to a multidisciplinary. So can we have two specialized areas?
Can. My area is on my current area is I was trained to be software engineer, okay, but now I'm doing a lot of multi optimization. I did a lot of optimization, so they're two different areas. So you can link the two areas together and try to make your area. Definitely can. But again, my advice to you now, you have to reflect, because you don't reflect, you don't know what your strength is. You have to reflect. My strength is this. Then you start focusing, plan to do the area that you do now, so that people know you in the area. You know, people know you by your name. You know, Ridwan. Oh, Ridwan is him. Oh, we know him in this area. Then you have to be able to establish that.
Yeah, because of because Prof, in the industry, definitely I am more towards on accountants. But when I become academicians, because my qualification, I think I have like a 2 degree, 2 master. So it will, somehow I like writing in about the quality management sort of thing. So I think it's quite a very gap is very big between these two areas. So I cannot say that I only major from this, but I can say that I have 2 specialized areas. So I cannot say that I only want to have one, because I interest to both. So that is.
I think
so
our vice chancellor is accountant also. Our VC also doing work in accounting, so he is also accounting, but I think he has no problem having the share. Don't worry about it. You have to sit down and think. Maybe if you want to just do a face-to-face talking with me, we can try to get something, to exchange ideas. What are your area? We can try to establish something, to help you establish something.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, tadi dah soalan ni. Okay.
Ada soalan lagi? Tadi nampak Dr. Hajar tadi ada raise hand. Ada?
So I'm always available if you want to, if you want to come to my office also can. If you want to know how to deal with reviewer comments, I can help. I'm open to anything. Okay. So if you want, everyone, I know something, but I don't know much, but I can help. Salam.
Prof, terima kasih untuk talk tadi. Izwan, Prof nak bertanya berkaitan inspirasi menulis paper. So how do you get inspired when doing the writing, and also if you have let's say writing block, how do you overcome that? Thanks, Prof.
Okay. Sometimes I inspired to do writing. Sometimes because I'm excited when I learn something new. I'm excited to write papers, so I will write. And typically, in my experience, okay, if I want to do a paper, I will do it until finish. Okay, I will always try to finish them. I will not, get blocked. I will try to improve. I make it a priority to me. I think Izan pun is very good writer. Okay, so I don't think you have that the difficulties to overcome that. You just have to finish. Set a target. I have to finish, and you finish them. So the only thing is that, like I said, you have to know the new knowledge that you want to know. Then you need to review a paper. Okay, so I had a chance to review many papers. Okay, and with reviewing papers, sometimes you get into something new, and sometimes when you read a paper, they're proposing something, and you say, I can do better than that. Then that's why you can write another paper, improving what he or she has been showing you. So again, to get the blockage of paper, I think it's really in your mind. You really have to, you really have to do it away with. Try to improve. That's the only way. There's nobody's going to tell you what to do. But I think yourself is good publication. I think I know you very well. Okay, when I was in Inspire, you also have good publication. Especially you know Prof. Jose very well, so he's also a good guy who write a lot of papers. Okay, so I think you just have to drive yourself. Saying that I want to finish, I want to do well. Just do it. Okay, and you have to finish it. Otherwise, nobody will tell you to do anything. You have to control yourself. Okay, so that's the only thing I can say. Sorry if my answer is not it's not good enough, but that's what I do. Okay, there's sometimes blockage what you do, but you have to overcome it. Okay. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, but I think UMP is very. I'm very happy to be in UMP. You look at UMP, UMP, the culture of research is very good. Okay, since I took over, even before that. Okay, I think now the last yesterday they were published top 2% scientists, 22 from UMP, and only 3 from Unimap. I think 2 from UTAM or 1 from UTHM, something like that. So very far, the gap is so large. 22 from UMP. So we are. I think everybody in UMP is doing well. Okay, so I hope this thing will continue. So I hope that answers your question. Sorry if I not. Okay. Any more question?
Ada lagi soalan? Okey, so rasanya tak ada, Prof.
Okay.
So baiklah, dengan berakhirnya sesi soal jawab kita sebentar tadi, maka berakhirlah program bicara kepimpinan UMPSA siri 1 bagi tahun 2024. Semoga kita berjumpa lagi di program bicara kepimpinan UMPSA siri seterusnya dengan perkongsian menarik. Terima kasih diucapkan kepada tuan-puan yang bersama-sama hingga ke akhir program. Semoga ilmu yang diperolehi daripada program ini dapat dimanfaatkan sepenuhnya dalam memacu kecemerlangan diri, seterusnya menyumbang kepada Kecerdasan Universiti dalam bidang pendidikan. So akhir kata, saya akhiri program kita dengan ucapan terima kasih sekali lagi dan sehingga kita berjumpa lagi di sesi seterusnya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum. Terima kasih semua. Thank you. Thank you semua.
Thank you so much,
Okay,
Prof.
bye.